Filing a tax extension can be a smart move for small business owners who need a little bit more time to file their tax return. Today, we're going to discuss some pros and cons. Let's start by discussing why you need to file an extension to begin with. A lot of times, you need to file an extension because you don't have your financials in order. And it's really important throughout the year as a busy professional, as a business owner, to keep track of your income and expenses for this very reason, so that you can file a timely and accurate tax return. So when you file an extension, you automatically get 6 months more time added on to the original tax filing deadline in order to get that extension filed. The best way to file an extension is to work with your tax professional that's helping you file your tax return to begin with, because it's critically important that you get that extension filed no later than the original tax filing deadline, because at the end of the day, filing an extension gives you more time to file. It doesn't help with extending your time to pay. There's two parts to this: failure to file on time and failure to pay on time. We're not talking about if you owe and not getting that payment in by the due date. We're talking about getting that return filed timely. So I talk all the time about the importance of filing a timely return, because there is a penalty associated with not getting your tax return in by the tax filing deadline. Now, one key thing I want to point out is that an extension is only necessary if you owe taxes. If you don't owe taxes and you're expecting to get a refund, then you don't need to file an extension, because if you owe the IRS money and you don't pay it on time by the tax filing deadline, then there's a penalty. That's what the penalty is for. However, if the IRS owes you money, there is no time frame on you not getting it done on time. So let's talk a little bit about the 6-month extension, because I believe there's still a little bit of confusion around this topic. You get the 6-month extension that extends the time that you get to submit your tax return. The purpose of the extension is for people that may owe. So there's two parts to this. There's an extension for time to file your tax return on time, and then there's a penalty for not paying your tax on time. So you have the failure to file on time and failure to pay on time. And those are two different things, and there's a penalty associated with each one of them. The extension simply deals with the failure to file on time. If you owe taxes, the expectation is that you submit a payment with your extension. So if you know you're going to owe and you file an extension, you still need to submit some form of payment to cover at least 90% of the tax that you expect to owe with your tax return when you file that extension. So the extension waives the failure to file on time. So you get rid of that penalty. But if you owe, you should really consider submitting some form of payment with that extension when you file it. I already know what you're thinking. So why in the world would I need to even file an extension if I got to submit payment when I submit the extension? Well, one of the very important reasons why you would still want to consider filing an extension is because you still need a little bit more time to gather all of your documentation. You may need a little bit more time to produce your profit and loss statement, the financial statements that come out of your accounting system, or working with your accountant or your bookkeeper. They may need a little bit more time to compile all of that information to produce an accurate profit and loss so that you can go ahead and get your taxes filed. Another reason why you may want to go ahead and file an extension depends on your business structure. If you're structured as a partnership or an S Corp, sometimes those documents that are produced from that tax return, from that business tax return, may not be available to you until after the tax filing deadline, thereby causing you to need just a little bit more time to go ahead and get your tax return filed. So those are a couple of the benefits of filing an extension, even if you may owe. So I really want to stress the importance of Filing the extension if you need to, it could be a very valuable tool because the penalties and interest that could accrue if you miss that tax filing deadline could really impact your bottom line. And that's what we don't want. We want to make sure as business owners we can keep more of our hard-earned dollars in our own pocket. But more than that, that's why it's critically important to make sure that you're keeping adequate books and records throughout the year to avoid all of this to begin with. Because when you're doing that and you're keeping track of your income and your expenses on a monthly and quarterly basis, then you can get ahead of even owing the IRS or having a balance due at the end of the year. And that's where effective tax planning comes into play. So I mentioned the 90% obligation of paying any tax liability that you would be responsible for. I'm sure you're wondering, how would I even know what 90% is? Well, that's where it's critically important that you're working with a financial professional, that you're tracking your income and expenses on a monthly and quarterly basis, and that tax professional, bookkeeper, CPA, accountant, enroll agent, whoever you may be working with, can sit down with you and help you determine what your quarterly estimated tax payments would be. And if you're submitting those quarterly estimated tax payments, then that's going to lessen the blow when it's time to file your taxes. So we've discussed the benefits and some of the drawbacks to filing an extension for your small business. If you still need help determining the appropriate financial professional to work with, check out our free guide on the top 5 questions to ask your accountant, CPA, or enroll agent, linked in the description box below.